In the not-too-distant future, LA has become a hellhole of homeless drug addicts. Oh wait, that's today. But also, it's true in Mercy, by the guy who directed War of the Worlds. Connor, what's the plot of War of the World? But Mercy, same movie.
Mercy is another screen-to-life movie. Amazon felt so emboldened by War of the Worlds, which they benched for 5 years, that they hired the same guy to do the first screen-life blockbuster. Yeah, a pseudo-screen-life, I should say. It's not as dedicated to the bit as, like, War of the Worlds, which is also funny because I don't know if they hired a real cinematographer for this movie, because out of screen life, it's pretty ouch.
The movie's just Chris Pratt sitting in the cuck chair.
It's stock footage that we watched in 3 dimensions. Chris Pratt is accused of killing his wife, and he wakes up strapped to a chair that's going to kill him in an hour and a half if he can't prove his innocence. And he has to convince an AI woman, judge lady, and he argues with an AI for like 30 minutes, and then he stumbles his way around a conspiracy where the chemicals are stolen to make crystal meth and nuclear weapons, basically, so that his friend can cause the biggest terrorist attack of all time. Also, Chris Pratt is innocent. So, Aiden, what did you think of Mercy?
Well, after some strong showings at the start of the year, we have a strong contender for the worst of the year. Much like War of the Worlds, this movie's boring and insufferable. If you want to see Chris Pratt mugging at the screen for an hour and a half in 3D for some reason, which there's literally no scene that takes advantage of this movie being 3D at all. It just makes Amazon slightly more money so that they can say this made slightly more money than it otherwise would have.
I think what makes the 3D more obnoxious is the fact that probably a third of this movie's runtime is Shutterstock stock footage, obviously shot on numerous different cameras and different aspect ratios. Even different frame rates shoved into this movie that's Ultra HD and shot on real film cameras, and it just looks fucking horrible.
Yeah.
But anyways.
The big twist on the screen life genre is that instead of Ice Cube being in the corner of the screen making faces, Chris Pratt sits in a cuck chair and watches his wife get blacked on a screen and reads, I don't know, people's emails and spreadsheets for an hour and a half while Rebecca Ferguson from Mission Impossible says you're still really guilty even though you very obviously did not commit this crime because the plot needs to happen. It has some good elements. Chris Pratt's hour and a half countdown roughly aligns with the runtime of the film, give or take like an extra 3 minutes on both ends.
I think the problem with that, though, is that Chris Pratt is consistently there for the hour and a half. That is a neat concept. And there's the timer in the corner, and it's pretty accurate. I like that concept, at least. The problem is, he'll be like, I need to see where my friend is. The friend he was talking to 2 minutes earlier. And it's like, oh, I just went across town. I was looking into X thing that happened. I'm 4 minutes away from where you need to go.
Well, I liked it because I didn't have to pull up my phone to see how close we were to the end every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You could just tell. You just knew. Other than that, it's yet another screen life movie with the gimmick of Chris Pratt being in a cuck chair. It's pretty rough. It's boring, as these movies all tend to be. There's not a very good mystery element to it because I don't really give a shit. Like, I know Chris Pratt's innocent,
Yeah.
And there are like 4 named characters who appear on screen. And I'm pretty sure right at the start of the movie I said that guy is going to be the killer, and the twist is that his brother's going to be one of the people that the AI killed.
Yeah.
And I was right.
No, I think it was literally the opening scene where, like, his friend comes up and he's like, I really support your AA and you're such a good guy who's a good reformed alcoholic. And I was like, somehow the AI is going to be involved and this guy's the villain. And I think it was literally the opening fucking montage of the movie.
Yeah, pretty much. There is a secondary twist in that the villain, I guess, was right that his brother was innocent. And Chris Pratt's other friend betrayed him and set the guy up. And,
half of the characters betrayed
even
him.
though Chris Pratt had to jump through hoops to prove his innocence and unravel an entire conspiracy and a bunch of other shit, this guy just goes in and he says, my brother didn't do it, I swear, and the judge is like, yeah, you're right. And the movie ends on the confusing, I guess the moral of the story, Chris Pratt hugs his daughter who he rescued from being a hostage and says, everyone makes mistakes, even AI. And the movie's over within 10 seconds of him saying that. So I guess that's the moral of the story, but I don't really know what that means in the slightest. It doesn't really
for a movie that's literally about AI, it's to a startling degree takes no stance on AI. Because for a second you're like, oh, you know, the AI wrongfully accused someone, thus it's bad. But no one really condemns the idea of this mercy 90-minute judge, jury, executioner countdown, and at the end, Chris Pratt humanizes the AI. He becomes friends with the AI. It becomes more human, and he's like, look, you know, you're good.
Water under the bridge.
What the fuck is that smell?
I was cleaning the sink and I had beef grease in there from when I made tacos. So I smell a little beefy. Yeah, he just says water under the bridge. An innocent man got executed, and I almost did, but you know.
And also,
we all make mistakes.
This whole series of flubs led to the killing of like 55 people and almost the detonation of a
SWAT
fucking
team.
Nuclear bomb in the middle of a. Except for the friend who was the other villain, she survived. That was a very unnecessary moment to be like the friend actually was involved. The other friend. Like, that was just totally... And the other thing, too, is there's a lot of plot lines this movie opens. Chris Pratt, and I'm sure you'll talk about it, Chris Pratt's wife has a boyfriend. They were getting divorced, and he was an alcoholic because of his buddy dying on the force. And then he started this whole mercy program, or he was involved in starting it.
He supported it or
and
something?
now he's an alcoholic again, and he beats his wife and children his wife and child who both despise him. And Chris Pratt's just this horrible person, and his best friend made a thermonuclear bomb in the back of a semi-truck to blow up the Mercy building. And the resolution is, well, I guess my two friends are both criminals and they're going off to jail. Then he hugs his daughter, and it's like, you know, he was drunk this morning and an alcoholic for a year. And the justification for him being a giant alcoholic is that his friend was killed. But now he's been sucked into something where he was wrongfully committed of a crime, came within seconds of getting executed. His wife was brutally murdered.
He only came within minutes of being executed, then he chose to continue sitting in the
his only support mechanisms, his AA buddy and his partner. Yeah. One was a terrorist, the other one intentionally got an innocent man executed. And we're supposed to believe somehow maybe this experience... Well, it ends abruptly. We don't know what to believe. Maybe he's going to go back to beating his daughter and drinking.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically speaking, that trauma's not going to make his life any better.
That's what I would do.
Probably. Realistically, if you're like a 10-year alcoholic, you know, and it's based on the trauma of your one partner dying, all of a sudden you lose everything, every support system in your life.
Yeah.
And you almost got executed by an AI down to the second. and you were in the center of a conspiracy to create the biggest terrorist attack in America, eclipsing 9/11.
Yeah.
And that's the only
And then
reason you got up.
You had to arrest both of your best friends for being involved in different elaborate conspiracies.
Yeah, pretty traumatizing.
But at least he won his daughter's respect.
I thought him
I don't know what
watching
he did,
Jay, his original partner Jay, who's the only character in the movie whose name I remember, even though he has like 2 minutes of screen time.
Hey, Chris Pratt has a really cool
Chris.
name.
Chris Raven. I forgot Chris Pratt's character's name, and his name was fucking Chris.
Not just Chris Raven.
Chris Raven.
Because he's a badass loner.
Amazon's like, you gotta write something up. We got Chris Pratt on board for this weird AI screen-to-life movie. And he's like, Chris...
Well, they probably had a different name for him, but Chris kept showing up drunk to sit in the cuck chair and forgetting his own name, his character's name. So they just reshoot it and call him Chris.
Just easier. Maybe everyone was just calling him Chris too much. Everyone forgot the character's name, so they shot more shots where they flubbed it and accidentally called him Chris.
To be fair, when I'm watching the Super Mario Bros. Movie, I forget Mario's name and start calling it Chris, so...
Yeah, that's true. Anyways.
His original name was probably like Tony Raven.
Sorry, I followed that, the convolution of the... My favorite thing is the moral of the story is AI might be bad or it might be good, and Chris Pratt's probably an alcoholic who's only going to be more of an alcoholic and beat his daughter even harder than he was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazon Studios, everybody.
It's not as funny as War of the Worlds, in the sense that it's marginally better produced and is less entrenched in its awful gimmick, which inherently makes it less funny. Also, Amazon must have cut the scenes where Chris Pratt was like flying Amazon drone into the guy's bomb building.
We gotta stop him.
Shit.
The Amazon driver pulls up to the side of the pickup truck and starts throwing his piss jug. Throws his piss jug at the guy.
I'm trying to think of something else funny to say about it, but it's honestly just kind of boring. Connor, what'd you think of Mercy?
I thought Mercy was bad. It's probably more watchable than War of the Worlds, but it's equally convoluted. The movie really makes no sense, because whoever he calls is just conveniently always in the right place at the right time. The 90-minute timer has a really hard time working, because for some reason the movie spins for its wheels for the first half hour. Chris Pratt gets to like 57 minutes on the timer before he even starts investigating and solving an entire murder. And also, you gotta consider, Chris Pratt's in a chair for an hour and a half. We see what he's doing. He's calling people. He's starting to deduce this crime. Perhaps that's possible. In 90 minutes, his friend, was sitting in the garage working out. Then he's driving around town. He steals a truck. 3 minutes later, he sets up a trap in his garage where a mini nuke is going to kill the SWAT team that he knows somehow is going to show up in a couple of minutes.
He just
And
knew
then
that Chris
he
Pratt was
starts
smart enough to
driving the
solve
truck
case.
around town. And he makes the truck across town so that he can nuke Chris Pratt before the machine can kill him in 90 minutes. The reason he murders the wife in the first place is twofold. For one, she was on to somebody he kind of had in on it. There's chemicals he's stealing or something, and he got another employee at his business in on it. You think he could probably just not get the employee in on it because he owns the chemical company, so you think he would
think
he would have the easiest time just silently skimming it and then setting up this terrorist attack. But because Chris Pratt was the one to arrest his brother, he happened to go to AA with Chris Pratt, where he decides to become Chris Pratt's best friend so that he can eventually frame him for the murder of his wife, which only worked because he was able to hide in their basement for 3 days, because they don't go in the basement for unexplained but stated aloud reasons.
And his daughter caught him hiding in the basement on her TikTok.
On accident on her
But
on
also
her
didn't notice
TikTok.
that he was crawling around in the basement for 3 days.
Yeah, but none of them go down into the basement, and Chris Pratt says, "We don't go down into the basement." They have, like, some upscale ass house, too. Like, it's a nice house. Why wouldn't they go to the basement? It's not like they live in a condemned shack. Anyway, so the friend lived in the basement for 3 days. He got access to the basement because he owns the company Chris Pratt's wife works at, by coincidence. Not related to the fact that he happened to, by coincidence, start going to AA with Chris Pratt, or the fact that Chris Pratt had his brother executed. He happens to own the company that Chris Pratt's wife works at. So she has a work function. She's on to him, but she invites him to the work function, and only her boyfriend knows about this, and not Chris Pratt, because he's too busy secretly drinking in the garage and listening to Creed, which is a scene.
Yep.
And then
so Chris Pratt,
his plan is to hide in the basement for 3 days so that he's not on the cameras.
Well, he was going to probably hide there indefinitely, because he also had to wait for a day where Chris Pratt got drunk and came home and yelled at his wife. Otherwise, the plan wouldn't work.
Right. So and then there is an internet outage. He knows that the backdoor neighbor has a bird cam that Chris Pratt would see him on in Mercy and get him acquitted and prove that he was innocent. Even though Mercy has some strict standards. Frustratingly, the rules don't make sense. She's like 96. He'll be like, so he's got the thermonuclear bomb and he's going to blow up the world. And he probably murdered my wife because he was living in the basement. She's like, circumstantial evidence. You're still 96% chance of being the killer. I'm like, that is not... Even if it's circumstantial evidence, that would definitely move the chances that he's guilty below 96%. I think Chris Pratt blew that idea out the water when he found his wife's secret burner phone that's off of the mandatory internet grid immediately. That he has never texted.
Yeah, but he interviewed his wife's boyfriend, and his wife's boyfriend said, I didn't do it. And then the AI judge was like, yeah, I believe him.
Yeah, well, the AI judge was like, 100% accuracy, he's being truthful, and like, wouldn't you be mad if your wife started dating a black man behind your back? And I was like this, it's like you would get madly jealous because it's disturbing.
What do you think?
Which was kind of fucked up, a little racist to me. But anyways,
what do you think the chemical company man would do? Like, what if Chris Pratt just decided to turn his life around and stop drinking and didn't come home and yell at his wife?
Then he would just live in the basement forever. Although he also had to know one other thing, which had to work out for his master plan. The internet outage in the neighborhood had to happen so that there weren't security cameras the day he made his escape. Because otherwise they would have seen. And the only reason they didn't see is because he lived in the basement for 3 days when the internet was up. And then he waited for the internet outage, which at no point do they explicitly say he caused. Nor do they even remotely imply it. But the camera was also out, and it was lagging, so you only see a glimpse of him in the bushes behind the bird cam, which he knew about, and he also, so my theory, the friend lived in the same area, he got this invitation to a barbecue, he's like, this is great, I'm still making my thermonuclear weapon. Then he gets a piece of mail. It's Quest Internet. He opens it up. It says planned internet outage, 10 a.m. Tuesday morning, and he says that's great. I'll finally be able to not live in this basement anymore.
I guess the reason Chris Pratt came and yelled at his wife is because his flask of booze was missing. So I guess maybe he discovered that Chris Pratt had a drinking problem somehow. And also somehow discovered that Chris Pratt kept a flask in his car. And also somehow found a way to get into Chris Pratt's car to steal his flask. To set him up so that he would come back and yell at his wife during the time of the internet outage when he went to work at 10 a.m. as police officers do.
I think we're looking at a bit of a Parasite situation where he was living in the basement because he also had to have known the family policy. Maybe at the barbecue he was talking and they said, we choose not to go down to our basement.
For some reason.
We're not going to elaborate on that. We choose not to go down to our basement. So if you want to live there for 3 days, and also this guy seems to be someone who they talk to frequently, good friend. What if they're like, I'm going to call up Brian or whatever the fuck his name is, and all of a sudden in the basement here, you know, like what's? Oh wait, no, he didn't have his phone on him, so he could be off the grid. So no one's like, yeah, I'm really concerned. Brian hasn't no one's heard from Brian in 3 days. Maybe he had a heart attack or something. And he disappeared, but somehow he called into work too while he was in the basement without his phone.
Yep.
But he was hiding there since the barbecue, so somehow he must have. He was casing the joint in the basement. He snuck out, went back to his house so he could call out, left the phone there, and went back into the basement.
And none of his work colleagues noticed that he was gone for 3 days, even though he's the owner of the
including the
company.
wife who was murdered.
Yeah.
No, they said
All that
he
had to-
called out, you know? He explicitly called out, but he also explicitly didn't have his phone in the basement.
Maybe
Well,
he called out
pre-ordered.
beforehand.
And then he was still
He's
at
like,
the
I'm
barbecue.
going to be out for an indefinite number of days. until
Maybe
there's
Sunday morning he calls everyone, he's, I'm sick, and then he shows up at the barbecue, says, feeling better for a minute, but I'm going to be gone the next 3 days. There's a series of issues with the whole thing, and also they're like, I don't know. It's also the director's obsession with drones remains here because they made human-sized drones to fly around on and stuff.
They did. Human-sized police drones that carry police officers
And
to wherever they
presumably
need to be in
move
the
at
plot.
near light speed because he'll
Yeah.
call somebody 3 minutes and be like, I'm at the house. And then she'll be like, I just arrested. At one point, so the affair boyfriend starts running from the police. A dramatic police chase that climaxes with him getting tackled off the side of a skyscraper onto a mezzanine of 3 stories down, being critically injured. And then they take him in for escaping police. And within a minute and a half, he's driven to the police station and processed and sitting in his cell.
He's booked. He's in the cell. He's awaiting his execution by AI judge.
Yeah, and then, but what...
For no crime.
So all of that happens in 3 minutes. They don't even check him at the hospital after he tumbled 20 feet to the ground. No one can explain why he went to the roof to dramatically try to escape.
Yeah,
He's like, I was kind of nervous because the wife, but then he immediately is able to have an alibi and prove his innocence.
Those drone bikes are fast, man. The AI's like, it'd take your partner 80 minutes to drive by car into the center of LA, and then she's like, don't worry, I got my drone bike, I'll be there in
Maybe she was
3
booking
seconds.
him via laptop, you know? She had the laptop on her knee. I think that's part of police training. Fucking around on the laptop while you're going 95. Oh, and he's going 75 in the fast lane. Has to slam on the brakes to get behind him to give him the speeding ticket, you know? Typing on their laptop the whole time.
And also, despite having faster than light drones, they don't put down a road strip to stop the truck that has a thermonuclear bomb in it. They just
They just
smash
keep
into it
driving
with
cars
cars.
into it.
repeatedly.
And also, every 2 seconds, they're like, I got the shot, and they keep trying to, shoot him. I guess that explains why the partner was so gung-ho to try to kill him. But she's like, he has a thermonuclear weapon, so we have to sacrifice your daughter, who would also die if he blew up the nuclear weapon. Which seems like a rational enough thing where they're like, okay, she had to make the tough call, but then they're like, well, actually, she wanted to kill him so he couldn't testify. If that was the case...
His testimony 100% exonerated his brother, despite all the hoops that Chris Pratt had to jump through.
You think the last thing she'd want to do is stop him from blowing up. She'd be like, oop, Butterfingers, he got right by me. You know? Slow on the... Or she could have just been not even tried to catch him. She wouldn't have never went to jail if she didn't try to catch him.
Yeah.
Or if she played dead or said I was too injured to get up, you know. Obviously people would die, but she's so morally devious, she's willing to kill men, women, and children to cover up for her crime of hiding evidence. She's one of those cops who has a little baggie of cocaine they throw into everybody's car, you know. They got hit quota. Throw their own coke bag in there. Yeah, I don't know. It's It's a shit show, man.
It is.
It doesn't... I think the fact that they took, like... They must have taken lessons. Or maybe they're like... this is the first big budget one, so that's why they were a little less shameless about product placement. I have to imagine. Because, like, the Ice Cube one, they were like, the Amazon truck is drones are around and blah, blah, blah. You don't so much as see an Amazon-branded piss jug in this movie. So, I don't know. It's...
Kino.
In ways, it's better than War of the Worlds. Equally incomprehensible. It has a lot of the same problems where the only person who's stuck in the time frame restrictions is the person doing the screens.
You're good at making steam.
And everybody else is able to just go at light speed to wherever the plot needs them.
Do you think after the events
Also, the plot
of this
makes
movie
no
they
fucking
built
sense.
Chris Pratt a cuck chair so that he can solve all the crimes from his cuck chair just like he solved this one?
I think
He's really good at
I
it.
bet you there's a pitch for Mercy too that involves him solving a different crime and saying, so we restructured Mercy from being a judge, jury, and executioner thing that's actually good to using it for police work with Chris Pratt, and they call it like Mercy 2 the chair or something. He's like, strap me in. They're like, why do you need to be strapped into the chair instead of just going on its own? He's like, I need a drone.
Mercy male masturbator protocol. Now. Play that footage of my wife.
Yeah. There's no resolution to like her daughter being like a vapor. He's like, she's vaping and dating young boy or older men. She's getting molested. My daughter's getting molested and vapes. And there's no like resolution.
He's gonna
to
put her
that.
boyfriend in the cuck chair.
That's what they should do. It becomes like Saw. He's putting tons of innocent people in the cuck chair. Then Chris Pratt is fighting. Chris Pratt's on the other computer trying to hack away the evidence. He's like, I literally didn't do anything. And Chris Pratt's like deleting it. Chris Pratt's like, what's in your pocket right now? And he does the old magician coin behind the ear trick. He's like, what's behind your ear? And pulls out a bag of cocaine, He's like, that seems pretty illegal to me, bucko. And it's like Saw, but it takes 90 minutes for one kill. And then he's like, too bad, buckaroo. And then his
Mercy,
fingernails
open
get
his
ripped
porn
off and
folder.
he gets stabbed.
Open his folder of my daughter's nudes right now.
Save these to my OneDrive for further examination. It's the only motherfucker with a OneDrive. That's how he evades detection for his illegal activities. His mercy-based illegal activities. We need to connect to SharePoint. Yeah, I don't know, man. Would you recommend Mercy to the viewing audience?
No. God, if you for some reason have to only watch one of these,
Watch neither. There's no compare. There's no point.
War of the Worlds is one of the most amusingly bad movies ever made, and this one's just kind of boring. I don't think this is going to have the infamy or legacy that War of the Worlds has had so far, and will probably continue to have as maybe the worst movie ever made.
Yeah.
This one's kind of just really boring and stupid and badly thought out, and not in a way that's even remotely entertaining. Connor, would you recommend Mercy?
Chris Pratt as... Okay, I'm continuing on your comparison note. No, I don't. I don't recommend either of these. But Chris Pratt as abusive, alcoholic cop dad, it's not too hard to see. You know?
Yeah.
Ice Cube as like a fucking genius nerd who's like, I'm hacking computers. It's just like horrible.
I'm hacking the Amazon drones to shoot down the robot.
Yeah, it's such a miscast. Everything about that movie is broken fundamentally. I will say the plot of this movie is just broken, as I think we implemented when you just think about anything logically. Nothing lines up. It basically makes no sense. at all. But I will say at the very least, Chris Pratt is good at being like, "Oh, I didn't kill my wife," and you're kind of convinced.
Wow, I'm really sad.
To a degree, and
My name's
Amazon
Mario or whatever.
Amazon believed in this movie to the point that they put a bunch of money in it. So even though I would say from a plot standpoint, it's fucking horrible, it's definitely more watchable than War of the Worlds. But the cheapness of War of the Worlds contrasted with the fact that Amazon put a bunch of money and self-indulgent fucking product placement. Blatant. Amazon Studios is the first title card you see, and Amazon products are prominently featured throughout.
Good at pooping, Steve.
Ice Cube is supposed to play a character he was never meant to play as the sole focus of the movie for 90 minutes. War of the Worlds was terrible and boring and long. But also something was very funny about it, and occasionally
Ice
you're
Cube
like,
was never
this
given
is
a script, and they're
baffling.
just like, make a bunch of faces, we'll just put them in wherever.
Chris Pratt's like giving performances, and like, if you look at seconds in this movie in a bubble, you might actually be misinformed into believing it's a real movie with an actual plot. This is definitely the most ambitious screen life movie. The fact that it was in 3D, obviously it was an attempt to hit the premium formats. This is probably the worst 3D movie I've ever seen. Because most of... I'd assume some sort of, like, algorithm decides, like, foreground items become 3D. But most of it was, like... Most of the 3D was, like, peripheral screens are kind of slightly out. Like, there was literally no point to have this 3D. It didn't look very good in particular because it was a mixture of a million cameras and stock footage and just garbage, basically. I don't know. It's so weird. It was a weird idea and a weird attempt, and I can't understand why Chris Pratt signed on to do this movie when he's done real movies before. At least Ice Cube's like, he's famous, but Ice Cube was probably like, this will be a real chance to flex my acting muscles and get $500,000 for a weekend's work or whatever. So I understand why he did War of the Worlds, but like why Chris Pratt did this movie is kind of beyond me. So no, I wouldn't recommend it. It sucked.